Prophet ﷺ, he says, Arba'atu min as-sa'ada. There are 4 components of happiness. You ready for this? He said a good spouse, having a good companion is a component of happiness. He said al-jaru salih, having a good neighbor is a component of happiness. So those are kind of understandable because then you have people, right? A good wife, a good husband, a good spouse, a good neighbor. Then he says al-maskanul wasi', having a big house. And then he said al-markabul hani. The literal translation of al-markabul hani, and you've got Mr. Arabic here. Literally it translates into a sweet ride, doesn't it? Literally, markabul hani means a sweet ride. And Rasulullah said, وَأَرْبَعَةٌ مِنَ الشَّقَاءِ, and there are 4 components of misery. A bad spouse, a bad neighbor, al-maskan al-dayyiq, a very constricting small home, and the Prophet said, a bad ride. Now, what is amazing about this hadith, number 1, is that the Prophet just acknowledged that these things contribute to a person's happiness. These are components of happiness, there's no doubt about it. But here's the question. From those 4 things, what did the Prophet have? Just number 1, a good wife. The Prophet did not have a good neighbor. The Prophet did not have a big house. His hujra, his apartments, his chambers were 9 by 4. They were so small that the Prophet used to tap the legs of Aisha radiallahu anha whenever he would make sujood. Did the Prophet have a sweet ride? No. The Prophet never rode a good camel or a good horse. In fact, his saddle was described as being worn out. So what is the Prophet telling us? You know, he's telling us that, you know what? If you have a car that doesn't break down every 5 minutes, you're more likely to have a good day than someone who does. Having a good, nice space to live in, having that space can be good. It can contribute to your happiness as opposed to living in a very small place. Having a good spouse can certainly contribute to a person's happiness. Having a good neighbor can certainly contribute to a person's happiness. But the fact that the Prophet ﷺ himself does not have except for one of those things shows you what? Your happiness cannot depend upon those things. Your happiness cannot depend upon those things. Abdullah ibn Salam radiallahu ta'ala anhu, one time he walked into a masjid and the people saw him praying, and there was this man who was from, he never met Abdullah ibn Salam, and the people were talking about how righteous this man was and how this is a man of Jannah. Abdullah ibn Salam, the man who was a rabbi, the chief of the rabbis before Islam. And this man sees him praying, and the people see him praying, and they're speaking well of him.